Good morning. This morning I wanted to talk a little bit about learning online. And I know a lot of you are new to learning online. And what I used to hear a lot, and I don't hear it so much anymore, but I used to hear it a lot, was that I can't learn online. It's sort of touchy-feely person, or I need somebody standing in the middle of the arena with me. It's not a good way for me personally to learn online. And I used to hear that so much. And it's a funny thing, because I think what we're learning with this new coronavirus and the changed circumstances we all find ourselves in is that actually most of us can learn online really quite easily and quite successfully. And there's lots of reasons why it's actually almost better to be doing it that way. So let's think about the difference between having an instructor come to you and give you a 1-hour lesson on your property, for example. So, that's great, and you get that hour, and you learn a lot, and perhaps even the instructor might even ride your horse for you, which is also really good. But there are a few problems with that. And the first thing is, often in an hour you get a lot of information. Like, it really is a lot of information, and you're only going to remember a fraction of that. Also, it's a sort of unreal setting, isn't it? Because you're actually performing in that lesson. You've got somebody watching you and judging you, basically. And so you're probably not riding the same way you might ride when you ride every day. You're doing that slightly differently. So there's a little bit of a falsity about that situation. We all love the idea of an instructor riding our horse. And, even when I get people, great riders, I love to see them on my horses, because I love to see how the horse goes with the rider. And it's good. It really is good. But does it actually help you in the long run? And we hear, don't we, a lot about, horses having buttons, and people think, oh, maybe my instructor can put the buttons on the horse. So then when I get on the horse, all I need to do is push the buttons. But it really isn't the case. Horses don't have buttons, do they? Horses have responses. They have learned responses to our cues. And the thing is, they're your cues, not your instructor's cues, not somebody else's cues. They're your cues. And what you need your horse to understand is how to respond correctly to your cues. We often see horses that are bought like an old schoolmaster or something, and this horse can do Grand Prix level dressage. And somebody pays a lot of money for that horse, and in 6 months' time, the horse can't do Grand Prix level dressage anymore. And it's not because the horse has lost its training. The training will still be in there, and if you put the original rider back on that horse, the horse will be able to perform in the same way. Horses have great memories. They don't forget this stuff. But the rider has been asking the horse differently. So for the horse, it's learning a whole new set of commands. And we know that a horse can feel a fly land on it, whether it's here or whether it's 3 millimeters away, it can feel the difference. The horse can feel these things. So if you think about that with your leg cues, for example, and say you're cueing your horse to do tempi changes, the very experienced rider might move their leg this much on the side of the horse, and the much less experienced rider might move their leg this much, and there's a completely different cue for that horse. Remember when I was in Connecticut, and there was a beautiful horse there. His name was Care Royal, and he belonged to the woman who was teaching at the riding school that I was also teaching at, and she used to let me ride him, which I just adored. And one of the first time I rode him, she said, "Oh, just canter around." She's sort of giving me a lesson, and she said, "Okay, come across the diagonal, and then I want you to just do change through walk somewhere at the end of the diagonal or something." Anyway, this horse came across the diagonal. The horse is doing tempi changes. So I can't stop it doing tempi changes. Stop moving. You're moving. You're shifting your weight. You're shifting your weight. I'm not. But this horse was so sensitive that it could feel that. It could feel just that slight movement of my weight, and it was responding with what it knew was the correct answer. And it was a tempi change. And so, if I was to continue riding that horse in that way, it was going to stop responding, because I was going to lose the cues because I wasn't releasing at the right time. So I wasn't asking the horse to tempi change. If it's tempi changing, then I'm not going to be releasing the cues at the right time. The horse is not going to be rewarded for doing the right thing, so the horse will stop doing that. So I'm going to basically untrain the horse. The thing is that whenever you're riding a horse, you're building that bubble of communication. And so when your instructor gets off the horse and hands it back, the bubble bursts. You know, that's gone. That was her bubble with your horse. And your horse was responding to her really specific cues. What we need to do is get your horse to respond to your specific cues. So I always think it doesn't really matter what your cues are. Horses aren't born with responses to cues. You know, a lot of people ask me, well, what's the correct cue for canter? Well, the correct cue for canter is the canter that you teach your horse. Because there is no universal language here. This is not, you know, it's not a natural thing. We can't say sliding the outside leg back or putting the inside leg on the girth or doing those two things together is the correct cue for canter. It might be a commonly used cue for canter, but it's no more correct than raising your arm or kissing, you know, making a sound. That's my cue for canter. So there is no correct cue. It'll be correct for your horse because you teach it, and you teach it in a systematic way. And so that's why I do think that learning online is really helpful, because it reminds us that we're teaching our horse all the time, that the horse is always learning, and that whatever we do with the horse is going to take that and put it in its memory, and that will probably come out later. So online, if you follow a system like the CanDo system, it breaks everything down into little tiny chunks. So you can watch a 5-minute online video about, let's say we go back to the flying changes thing. You want to teach your horse to do flying changes. Well, you get to that module and you say, right, what's the first thing I need to be able to do? Independent hindquarter control. So you go back to the hindquarter control and you start teaching that, and it starts on the ground. The first thing you've got to be able to do is disengage the hindquarter. So move the hindquarters across so the horse steps forward and across with its hindquarter. The first lesson. It's a 5-minute video, but you can go out and you can spend, 30 minutes with your horse teaching that one day. That could be that day's lesson. Then you could come back and look at the training again. So you're right, okay, now I've got that on the ground. What do I do now? And the next lesson will be you take that same disengaging the hindquarters to the saddle. So next day you could go out and you could do that. You spend 30 minutes doing that. And you build up like that. And as you do this, the horse actually has the time to process all of that information. You have the time to process all of that information. And at the end of the week, you've got a horse that has independent hindquarter control. Nobody's got stressed. Nobody's been forced into doing it. Your horse isn't swishing its tail like a lunatic. Everybody's relaxed and happy. And it is so much better than trying to squeeze all of that information into an hour and then try and remember it for the rest of the week. So I really do think there's many advantages. The big thing is also to be able to go back and look at it again. Let's say you go out and you're in the saddle now, you're doing your hindquarter control, perhaps you're up to the 3rd or 4th lesson, which is the 20-minute circle where you're traveling around to the left to start with, and you're asking the horse to do travers or haunches in on that circle, so to move its hindquarters to the left into the circle. Let's say things aren't going too well and you're getting a bit confused and your horse is getting a bit confused, and that's fine. You can come back and you can watch that video again. And then you go, oh, I missed that part. And I hear this a lot. People say, oh, I completely missed that. The first time I watched it, I completely missed the fact that, while your horse might move its head way around to the right when you start, your job is to make sure that it moves its head progressively less. Because in the end of the day, you don't want the horse to move its head at all. So, maybe that bit escaped you, but you can come back and you can watch the video again. You'll find that because you'll know what's going wrong. I do try with all of my videos to put in the mistakes. So with all of the videos, you're watching horses that are learning. You're not watching finished horses, horses that already know it, because there's no point in showing you that, because your horse is not going to look like that. You know, these things, the horses don't always do it very quickly. You know, some horses find certain lessons really difficult, or you know, it takes longer for them to get that lesson. So by showing you only horses that are learning the lessons, you can see some of the mistakes that they might make. And by knowing in advance what mistakes the horses might make, that can save your horse the trouble of having to make them, which of course makes training much less stressful. The fewer mistakes your horse makes, the easier training is for your horse. So it's a win-win situation for everybody, knowing in advance what it might look like when it doesn't look perfect. Because knowing what it looks like when it's perfect is of no help to us when the horse is learning the lesson. The other thing I try and do is have a number of different horses for each lesson, because I think that's also important. Some horses, you know, make some certain mistakes and other horses make other mistakes, and having a variety is always good. So I do think that's helpful. And I think it's another thing that you can really only get online, because being able to see somebody else teach the lesson with a horse or a number of different horses is very helpful. And you can't get that when you've got your instructor standing in the middle of the arena, because obviously they haven't brought a horse with them. They certainly haven't brought several that you can look at. And if they have brought a horse with them, it's probably already knows the lesson. So all of those things are a huge advantage. And I do think that perhaps after this confinement of COVID-19, perhaps after this confinement, we're going to find actually that we're pretty good online learners. I think we're going to have to be pretty good online learners in the future. So I encourage you to dive in and get started. I know some of you have had the CanDo Gold training for a while now and haven't really dived in, and this is the perfect opportunity. Even if you're not able to see your horse very much, some of you are locked away from your horses, I do know that, just come along, come to meetings. We meet twice a week for an hour. You don't have to come, you can come in and out, you can mute yourself, you can shut the video off, you don't have to talk, you can stalk if you like. We're really happy with that. Come along, chat about your horse. Even if you're not riding, at least you get a bit of horsey time in there, and you can plan for the future when you are back to riding your horse. So I look forward to seeing you inside the CanDo training really soon. Remember, just for the time being, because of this international crisis of the COVID-19, I've got 50% off all of my products. So that's the CanDo Gold course and the Eat, Ride, Love course, which is a holistic approach to rider health and fitness and horse training, and also the off-the-track training passport scheme. So if you want to learn more about if you have an off-the-track horse, you need an off-the-track horse for this, have a look at that on my website, Race to Ride. That also has 50% off at the moment. So go along to the website, candoequine.com, and have a look at all the different things on offer. And I will see you inside the training really soon. Bye now.